Hi everyone, it's Kirstine from the Mustard Tree Trust. Hello everyone, I hope you had a nice Easter holiday. Before Easter we were looking at heroes of the Bible, and then we looked at my favourite hero, which is Jesus, and how he actually overcame death. And that story has been told for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I thought this next few weeks we'd look at heroes, but not the ones we find in the Bible, but the ones who came after. Now in Northumberland we're really lucky because we've got loads of amazing saints. So I thought each video would look at a different saint and we work out a little bit about them and maybe work out why they did the things they did and how that could affect us too. So the first hero I'm going to look at is a man called Oswald. Now, he was born around 600 AD. That means after Christ, which is about 1420-ish years ago. Quite a long time ago, even older than most people are alive. So we don't know much about Oswald apart from what was written down in the history books. What we do know is that when he was 12, he had to run away from home. You see, his dad was the king and Oswald was a prince. But his dad was killed, and not just by anybody. His dad was killed so that this other person could become king, and this other person was his Uncle Edwin. So Oswald's mum got together Oswald and his brothers and sisters, and she took them all the way over to the other side of the country. They went over near the Lake District, near Carlisle, and then they went north and ended up on a little island called Iona. Now the reason that his mum sent him there was because there was a new monastery. A man called Columba had built a monastery there about 40 or 50 years before, and he had monks there living with him, and they would teach all the young boys from all around, and they'd teach them how to read Latin and how to write and how to do their numbers. But they also taught them about the Bible, and they also taught them about Jesus and how amazing and what a hero Jesus was. Now all these young men would have to fight for their king. So, unlike school today, they were taught how to be good with a sword. Can you imagine that? What did you do at school today, son? Well, I did a bit of maths, a bit of English, and we did sword fighting all afternoon. Wouldn't it be great? Well, Oswald was quite good at sword fighting. And whenever his king, the king of a place called Dalrita, which is a big area on the side of Scotland, on the west side of Scotland, he was called to fight for his king. And he was quite good, so he got the nickname White Blade. When he was about 29, something horrible was happening at home. His Uncle Edwin had been killed, and there was a horrible king who was fighting everybody. And Oswald had learnt enough about God and about Jesus to pray, and pray very often. And he decided that God was telling him to go and help his people. And so he did. Now, we'll look a little bit more into why that happened when anybody of you comes to Life Path this year. But it was because he prayed about it, we believe, and he put God first. So when he and his little army got near to the battlefield, he put up a huge cross and told all of his army to pray to God. He put God first. He won the battle and became king, and he ended up living at Bamborough. Now I'm sure many of you have been to Bamborough. It's a fantastic place to live. But Oswald wasn't happy just with being king, and this is what makes him a hero in my eyes. He invited some monks to come over and to teach all the people in Northumberland about God. and to teach them about God's world and God's word and all those amazing stories of Jesus. Now, there was a bit of an issue because eventually Aidan came over, but Aidan knew a different language to what the Northumbrians did. Well, that was going to be a problem, wasn't it? Because if they didn't understand what Aidan was saying, they would never be able to understand the stories of Jesus. So even though he was a king, Oswald actually went with Aidan quite a lot. And he helped Aidan tell the stories by translating for him. You see, he remembered what the language was when he was a child, the Northumbrian, but also he'd been taught how to speak the other language that the monks knew on Iona. So he was very good at translating. Now, even though he was a king, he still walked around with Aidan. I think that makes him very humble and the sort of person I would quite like to be. Another thing that Oswald was known for was being very generous. Apparently one day, it was Easter, and they were having a big celebration. And Aidan had come for lunch. As you do, you have your friends around for lunch sometimes, don't you? Well, Aidan came for lunch and was sitting at the table with the king. And one of the servants came and said, "Sir, there's lots of poor people standing at the gate, rattling the gate." And Oswald was horrified that he hadn't done anything for the poor people for Easter. So what he did was he stopped eating and he said, "Here, take the meal that's on the table." And his servants all came and they took all the food. And then Oswald said, "Actually, I think you should take this too." And he gave him the dish, the silver dish that he was eating on. Well, the servants took all the food and the silver dish, and of course they could break up the silver dish amongst all the poor people who were standing there very hungry and very poor. So they not only got food for that day, but they also got a little bit of money to help them have food for the rest of the week. So you see, Oswald was a really special person. He prayed a lot. And he made sure that people heard about God. And he also made sure that he listened to God and did what he thought was right. And he was also very generous. So I think he's quite a good hero to have. I think he's a good hero of faith. But also to challenge us, what could we do? How could we be a bit more like Oswald? Can we help somebody who's struggling, who doesn't quite understand the maths problem that we've got in our lessons? Or maybe we're doing some spelling or some reading and the person next to us doesn't really understand it. Or maybe they don't remember how to spell a certain word and we could help them out doing that, couldn't we? We're definitely going to be needing people to be generous in the next few months because things are getting quite tough for our mums and dads. So maybe we could say, "I don't need to have those sweets in the shop. Tell you what, Mum, you keep that 50p that you were going to buy me a sweet for or a packet of crisps. And you can use it for another day." Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little look at St. Oswald. He wasn't king for very long, but he made a big difference in Northumberland. Because it's thanks to him, he asked Aidan over. I think we'll have to look at Aidan another day. But it's thanks to Oswald that God's word, that the stories of Jesus were told all around Northumberland. And here we are again, telling you the stories of Jesus all around Northumberland. Well, take care. I hope you have a good week. Bye for now.